Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Was a One-of-a-Kind Genius, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Hokage office. Team 7 returning from a successful A-rank mission. Kakashi reported to the Sandaime Hokage as his team walked into the office of the Hokage. The Sandaime smiled at the team. A third one, he said. It was their third successful A-rank mission. After the success of their first mission, he had thought it was okay to give them hard challenges. Kakashi had after all praised their teamwork. The Hokage knew firsthand that Naruto was a remarkable shinobi, and with his mind pulling the strings behind, he knew unless they were faced by an immovable object, they would always succeed. Some people were against his decisions, but the Sandaime Hokage didn't really care about what people were saying. Everyone had their own thoughts about certain things. Even if it was members of his own council making the noise, he was the Hokage and thus the commander of Konoha's military power. He could move his pieces as he saw fit. Your team has betted all other teams, Sarutobi said to Kakashi. And I have really become surprised that you have decided to take your duties as sensei a bit seriously, the old man added. While putting Kakashi in charge of Team 7, he had thought of the possibilities of Kakashi slacking off from his work, but he had not minded. Naruto wasn't the one to slack off, and since the blonde was already training Sasuke, he would have to take Hinata in as well. He had accounted for things to get well even with that. Hinata was improving and he was really happy with it. Of course her clan didn't know about it, and the Sandaime wasn't going to burst Hiyashi's little bubble. No, he would leave things for Naruto. He was sure the blonde was working some scheme. He didn't mind at all. It was working within his agenda after all. Sasuke was growing steadily, and that had brought the elders to barge into his office to demand that special care be given to the boy when it became known that he had awakened the Sharingan. As the only Uchiha in the village using the Sharingan, that was really big news, but the Sandaime was content with how things were proceeding, and so he had shot down the thought. Well, I am blessed with some remarkable genins, Kakashi said a bit lazily, but still had an eye smile. The Sandaime nodded. Indeed, he said. Well, I think the only team that could match yours is Guy's team. They have some capable genins with them, and his team is a year older than yours. I believe they have your cousin, Hinata. He graduated on top of his class and is hailed as a prodigy of the Hyuga clan, despite being from the branch family. Naruto didn't fail to notice how Hinata reacted when the Sandaime spoke. It was always something when the Hyuga clan was involved. The girl could never really muster the courage to speak out. Well, Naruto had never really ventured into that area. He was really waiting for the right time to work things out. For things to work out for him, Hinata had to regain her lure as clan heiress. Yes, that would suit him best. He needed the Hyuga's political power. It was also something else knowing that someone from the branch family was a prodigy and not from the main family. The slave was the best, better than the master. How ironic and amusing at the same time. Naruto figured the Hyugas had had a hard time dealing with it. He was certain whoever this Hyuga was, he held some resentment towards the main family. He didn't have much use for that, but those holding much anger in him could be swayed easily. Naruto wasn't going to go that path. Hinata could kill all the birds if he played his cards right. Nothing extreme had to be done on his part. Please don't mention that to him, Kakashi more or less begged the Sandaime Hokage. Ever since he started hearing about this team, he has been requesting a challenge to see which team is better. Of course I have always refused, but if he hears it from you, he will force the issue. The Sandaime chuckled lightly. I will see that I don't, he said. Before the Sandaime could say anything, there was a knock on the door. Enter, the Hokage said. Team Asuma walked the office. Kakashi, Asuma said as he stood beside the Jonin. Off to a mission? He asked, seeing the bags the genins were carrying. Kakashi shook his head. We just returned, he said. Asuma glanced over to the three genins. He first looked at the Uchiha and then at Naruto, lastly his eyes fell onto the Hyuga in the room. If you didn't count Hinata, they looked to be a formidable team. The atmosphere between Naruto and Sasuke was interesting to say the least. They looked like capable genins. Well, The Uchiha was a genius and the other one delivered the killing blow on Zabuza. Asuma still could not really believe what Kakashi had told him. It was just unbelievable. There had been nothing special about Naruto that anyone talked about. Shikamaru has only said he wouldn't want to face Naruto, not in a physical battle but in a battle of wits. The Jonin smiled as a thought came to mind. Kakashi's team was the best as it was said, and Asuma could say that it was unfairly put. Considering that one member was a Sharingan user and the other was a Jinchuriki. That was just a problem. We have completed our B rank mission, Asuma said with a smile. Ino looked at Naruto but she didn't speak to him. The blonde wasn't the friend that she had gotten to know. Naruto before her was no longer her Black Knight, but had become Hinata's knight. She had heard that the blonde spent time training with her by the blonde's mother. Kushina had even gone as far as to say that she had even invited the Hyuga over to their house for a meal. Perhaps Ino was just jealous that another girl was within Naruto's shadow and she was no longer there with him. He had used his power to protect her, but now he was using it for Hinata while she was stuck with her lazy teammates. Of all people to get Naruto's attention, she never thought that Hinata would be one of them. Naruto didn't do pity. She knew that firsthand. Her Naruto would have simply looked away if someone was crying for help. He was cold like that, and Ino had liked that indifferent side of him. Ino left her thoughts when she saw that everyone, but Naruto was leaving the office. She followed her teammates from behind, but before she left the office, she glanced at Naruto. The Yamanaka was the last one to leave the office and once she was out, she looked at Hinata with a smile. So Hinata, Ino started in a slightly innocent tone. What's up with you and Naruto? She went on about to ask the question just like that. Everyone in Team 7 and Asuma went on to give the girl a look at her question. What? Ino asked, seeing the looks she was being given. I'm just curious. Hinata just wanted to run away now. There was really nothing going on between her and Naruto and that was the truth. But the fact that Ino had asked such a question and gotten her mind racing to the possibilities and a certain question like, what if? Luckily for her, Shikamaru responded. What, don't you just go and ask Naruto himself? The Nara said. He had merely said that out of curiosity as he wanted to see how his teammate would respond to the question. He did have some moments with Naruto in a game of shogi. That was all they did anyway. Naruto did not chill to relax, he sharpened his wits in a game with him and then retreated back to his activities. Ino wasn't really taking her shinobi life seriously, and considering how serious Naruto was with his life, well, considering everything, it was understandable. It was obvious that they would not get along as they used to. Perhaps if Ino focused on training, then Naruto wouldn't be distancing himself from her. With more time he spends playing shogi with Naruto, Shikamaru has discovered that the blonde only uses pieces he sees as useful. If a piece is useless on the strategy he has, he was going to sacrifice it or just discard it. The blonde had even mused on just throwing it away if it was within the rules of the game. It was really possible that Naruto didn't see any benefit in associating with Ino anymore. That bastard probably wouldn't answer me, Ino said with a frown on her lips. Naruto would never ignore her if she tried talking to him. He had never done that, but that didn't mean he would answer every question she asked. You jealous? Chuji asked the Yamanaka. Or just mad that you have been replaced? Of course not, Ino exclaimed. Hinata wasn't her companion. She was sure that Naruto didn't do the thing of liking girls. But that didn't mean that it didn't bother her when he gave his attention to another girl aside from her. Ayano, Hinata started playing with her fingers. Naruto-kun is just my teammate and S-sensei, the Hyuga managed to say before saying her goodbye to Kakashi. Don't forget that we meet again tomorrow, the Jonin called out as the Hyuga rushed away from the group. Hinata nodded before she disappeared into a corner. So Kakashi, how about Bry later on with our teams? Asuma suggested. Kakashi shook his head. Already made plans, he said. Maybe some other time. He turned towards Sasuke and spoke. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., usual place. He was gone in swirl of leaves after those words left his mouth. Meanwhile, you've really done well in the team, the Sandaime said to Naruto. Well, considering the fact that the blonde was strong enough to be Jonin at least, it was something. Someone would have struggled to pull it off, but Naruto was doing well. That was why he was not denying Team 7 A rank missions. Perhaps it was a little unfair to other teams, but as long as no one was complaining, the Sandime was content with how things were. The mass shinobi may not know, but Kakashi's team literally has 2 Jonins and 2 Genins. Sasuke could even be considered a low chunin if one liked to be put an argument in the matter. It was okay since most people thought that Uchiha was the star of the team and the rest of his teammates were just learning from him. The Sandime couldn't wait for the day Hinata proves everyone wrong and when Naruto does show Konoha what he can really do. I have not been focused on the fact that I have been reduced to a mere genin. The rankings really mean little to me. Besides, with the mission I have been doing, it hardly matters, Naruto said. The Sandime nodded. The chunin exams are going to happen in this village the day after tomorrow. The old man paused for a moment to examine Naruto's reaction to the news. He got nothing and so he just continued speaking. Kakashi will nominate your team to enter the exams even though Sasuke and Hinata can be said to be fresh genins. I believe with the amount of effort you have put in them, those 2 can make the village proud. Naruto merely nodded. He reasoned knowing that the chunin exams were coming and going to be held in the village was one of the reasons the Sandime Hokage decided to put him as a genin. The old man probably wanted him to make a show in front of the whole village. They are ready, Naruto said. Sasuke would go on a rampage if he is denied the opportunity and I think this will be a good opportunity. The blonde trailed off as some thoughts connected in his head. He smiled. A second later, his smile turned into a chuckle. 3 seconds later, he was slightly indifferent. It is such a rare thing to hear you laugh, the Sandime Hokage said. What amuses you, Naruto? How things are playing out, the blonde said. I never thought that your schemes would lead to such a path. I had considered things, but I never thought you would be smiling at the end of the day as I imagine you will be during the exams. When you do put your mind to work, you truly show why they call you the professor. Naruto had thought that things would favor him immensely. He was playing the Sandime's game but on his terms, but at the end of the day, the old man would be getting what he was planning to get and then some. They had one thing in common and that was what made the plot work. The old man didn't even have to lift a finger. He just pushed the pieces and he played the role perfectly. It was a little sad. He'd thought he would be getting over the old man, but it was apparent that he was still too young to outfox the professor. Things were not out of control nevertheless. Nothing had changed. Don't give me so much praise, Naruto-kun, the Sandime said with an innocent smile. I didn't do anything, you're the one who has been doing things. Well, he was right about that. In any case, it seems you understand things, the old man continued. You were going to say it will be a good opportunity for Hinata to showcase her abilities. Most people have dismissed her, the Hyuga clan especially. I know Hiashi will be rooting for Neji-kun, but imagine what will happen if the daughter he discarded and stripped as heiress of his clan performing well against the clan's prodigy. Whether Hinata wins or not, it doesn't matter, as long as she puts a good fight. Nobody would be expecting her to win the match or even put a decent effort to down the experienced genin in the form of the Neji. She was a failure of her clan, but he was hoping she would push Neji to his limits, and put a fight that would leave Hiashi speechless and red-faced. What makes you think that Hinata will get to the finals and what makes you think that they will even fight against each other? Naruto asked calmly. Are you going to rig the matches? That would be unethical, the Sandime Hokage said with a smile. You're going to make sure she makes it to the final round, will you not? If she doesn't make it, all your efforts would have been for nothing. This was nothing like being put on checkmate, and Danzo thought the Sandime was naive and stupid, idiot. The old man was a cunning fox. He comforted with the left hand and searched with the right hand, a slippery snake just like his former student Orochimaru. Sometimes Naruto detested that innocent smile in the old man's face. I guess you win this game, Naruto said after a few moments of silence. You will get your winnings during the finals. I will make sure that Hinata reaches the center stage. I have no doubt you will do so, the old man said confidently. Now that we are done with that, you will be having guests tomorrow. The Kazekige's children are going to come to the village to attend the Chunin exams. I have arranged for them to stay with you and your mother. Since your house doesn't have enough room, it would be suitable if you used the Senju compound for the duration of the exams. And the Kazekige, he will come for the finals, the Sandime Hokage said calmly. I don't know what time they will arrive, but other teams have already arrived and some will be arriving tomorrow. Make preparations in the Senju compound. If you need financial assistance, I will offer it. I will see what my mother is saying about it, Naruto said before turning away from the old man. As he was reaching the door, the old man spoke. I heard you visited Danzo. When Naruto glanced at the old man over his shoulder, he saw the pipe already inside his mouth, just a few seconds away from being lit. That is accurate. I don't have an association with him. He is a threat to me and I had merely gone to confirm just how much of a threat he is and will be. I'd have appreciated it if you'd spoken to me about it, Sarutobi said in a flat tone. I did so by walking into Hokage to speak to him. You have eyes in here, the blonde stated before leaving the office. The following day, is it true? Sasuke asked Naruto. The team was waiting for Kakashi to appear in the usual place. About the Chunin exams. Naruto nodded. This just meant that they would not be doing any missions for now. Things would heat up after the Chunin exams. If Sasuke manages to pass the exams, he would become a Chunin and Naruto may have to stop pretending to be a genin. He had grown used to this setting, he would be okay if nothing changes. Having to lay the groundwork over and over again would be hard work that would surely frustrate him and for once he may do some act of insubordination. This team was fine. He had worked around Hinata to gain her trust and there were no problems with Sasuke. Although the Uchiha hasn't said anything since Itachi spoke to him, Naruto was sure Sasuke was very much aware that the reason he still has a mother is because of him. That meant the Uchiha owed him. Hey, are we going to participate? Hinata managed to find her voice and ask after Naruto had nodded to Sasuke's question. Yes, Naruto said. Of course Kakashi would have to nominate us first, but there is no reason we shouldn't. The blonde paused for a moment. For the Sandaime schemes to work out, they had to take part in the exams. Sasuke and Hinata were ready for the exams so the old man wouldn't be pushing them into a difficult task just for his plans to come into fruition. This will be a good chance for you to show your worth, Naruto said, specifically to Hinata. After everything, you should make the Hyugas reconsider their thoughts about seeing you as a failure. So far, we have kept your improvement hidden, but that is all right. You can make a show in front of people. I hope I get to fight you in the exams, Sasuke said with a smirk. I will not be holding back anything and I will give it all. Naruto wanted to remind the Uchiha that he has been giving it his all in their sparring sessions. Well, unless he was hiding something from him, that could work out. Naruto didn't put it past the Uchiha to actually have something hidden under his sleeves. Morning, Kakashi greeted after appearing before his team in a swirl of smoke. I'm sure by now you have already noticed that there are a lot more people in the village, from outside. The reason is that we are going to host the Chunin exams. He took 3 forms and handed them to each of his genins. The decision is up to you. If you want to participate in the exams, be at the academy at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The Jonin disappeared after speaking. We have already made the decision, Sasuke said turning to face Hinata. His expressionless look made the Hyuga shift uncomfortably. You're not going to screw anything by having second thoughts, are you? Well, even if you do, I will still go. Naruto shook his head and pocketed the form inside his cloak. Hinata. Hi. Go home, relax, and calm your mind. Tomorrow, be at the academy, Naruto said before walking away, Sasuke right on his tail. Naruto felt that the Uchiha was boring holes at the back of his head as they walked. He didn't say anything about it for a few minutes until they reached the village streets. Is there something you want to say to me? About my brother, Sasuke spoke under his breath. His voice was barely audible, but Naruto heard him. I wanted to tar. The Uchiha was cut off when someone called Naruto's name. Naruto. Sasuke turned around and saw 3 people walking towards them. He recognized the blonde in the middle as Naruto's fiancé. Did that mean that those 2 were her brothers? His mother had told him that the Kazekage had 3 children and Naruto was contracted to marry the elder one. Temari was her name if he was not mistaken. As the 3 neared them, Sasuke glanced at Naruto, who'd also turned to face the Sand siblings. The Raven saw a small smile in Naruto's lips. It wasn't just a flat smile, but a smile that resembled something he saw when the blonde was around his mother. Sasuke was a bit surprised, even though his expression remained blank. Temari, Naruto said with a small warm smile. He then turned to Gaara and held out his right hand. Gaara, you have really grown. There was a small twitch in Gaara's face as when Naruto said those words. We are of the same age, you know, and there isn't much difference our height. I'm guessing he means your expression, Gaara, Temari said calmly. When the elder sibling spoke, Naruto turned to her for a moment before facing the other sibling. Kankuro, there was an obvious difference in his tone and the lack of smile. Kankuro merely grunted in response. You must be tired from your journey. Follow me. This must be Uchiha Sasuke, Gaara said in a quiet tone, his expressionless mask facing the young Uchiha. Naruto nodded, yes, he said before folding his hands across his chest. Sasuke followed the four, walking beside Naruto. He wanted to say something important to Naruto, but it appeared that it would have to wait since there were people around them and he wasn't stupid enough to say that the blonde wasn't aware of it. He decided to just follow because he really had nothing better to do. This feels a little different, Temari said as she narrowed her gaze around the streets. It was a little different because the village she came from saw her as something else. Well, she was the Kazekige's daughter and people didn't outwardly send her heated glare out of nowhere. Boys would not approach her because of her parentage. It was not many people sending her a glare, but a few, she could count them in her hands. She could not understand why they were glaring at her. The reason really did avoid her mind. Why? Was it because they hated Naruto? Despite the many years that have passed in the sand, some people were still wary around Gaara even though he has turned a new leaf in his life since the Kushina reworked his seal. Their father had even started acknowledging him as his son. She could go on to say that they were a happy family once again. Still, she could say some resentment towards Gaara was justified. It hadn't been simply because he was a Jinchuriki, but because of what had happened in the past. Gaara hadn't been a bad person, but what happened when he tried to be nice wasn't that loving at all. All his kindness was always slapped into his face. What about Naruto, then? He was just Naruto. Yes, a Jinchuriki, but what had he done? I see no difference, Gaara said glancing at Naruto for a moment. He doesn't appear to mind though. At least it isn't many of them. Some of them are actually sending us a warm welcome. Temari, it doesn't really bother you, does it? Why should it? Sasuke rolled his eyes at the response. It was a typical response from the blonde. Sasuke was certain that Naruto didn't care about the villagers of this village. They could be massacred for all he cared. Even if it was happening in front of him, he would probably just watch it all happen. There has been much more than this I have had to take on, Naruto said. Most are content with this because it has brought an ally in Suna, while some resent that Uzumaki Naruto of all people is to be married to the daughter of the Kazekage. This is despite the fact that I am the previous Kage's son. At least most people are happy with this, Temari offered the positive with a smile. It's temporary, Naruto stated. Nothing with these people will last forever. If anything bad happens, like if Suna betrays Konoha, I will be blamed for it. They will likely say that I housed them, gave them everything they needed to know about Konoha. But Suna would never betray Konoha, Gaara said firmly. I know, Naruto said. I wouldn't forgive you people if you did something like that. But I was merely making a point. When Itachi did what he did, no one in their wildest dreams ever thought he would do it, but he didn't because I was associated with him. Some said it is the demon that drove him bad. Sasuke hadn't really known that Naruto had also suffered from Itachi's actions. Yes, people had also blamed him for the actions, and yet he didn't resent Itachi one bit and he hadn't gone on to say that Itachi did what he did because he was ordered to do it by Danzo. He had kept the secret and held on to his brother's wishes. Was that something he should thank or praise the blonde of? Naruto was mentally strong and always stays strong to what he believes in. He never seems to waver. Where WSS that power coming from? Sasuke could not come up with the answer. Naruto suddenly stopped and then turned to face Sasuke. He addressed the Uchiha. Lead Kankuro and Gaara to the Senju compound, I will follow shortly. Sasuke merely grunted in response. He was all but certain that Naruto was going to the flower shop to talk to his mother. He didn't delude himself into thinking that the blonde was taking Temari out to do something. He would be shocked if something like that happened willingly. But it was something that he was taking just her only. Come on Temari, Naruto said to the blonde, turning into a corner. The blonde looked at her brothers for a moment before following Naruto. Where are we going? She asked as she caught up to her fellow blonde. To my mother, Naruto said. He glanced at the girl at the corner of his eyes as he spoke. I thought your father would be accompanying you to the village. You're not just any children, but a lot more like the royal children of the sand. Temari frowned at the thought of her father. We came with our sensei, he went to speak to the Hokage after we entered the village, but I am sure he will be here for the finals. The man didn't even see us out of the village. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the bitterness in her tone. Something wrong with your father. The man I know would not act like that. Over the past weeks he has changed. He is like a different person. He no longer interacts with us. He feels cold. I wouldn't be surprised if someone said he was possessed, Temari said after a few moments of silence. What would it do, if she hid that from Naruto? Perhaps maybe I've just been thinking too deeply about it. I know my mother best. If she was possessed, I'd notice it. I cannot say that you are wrong because I don't know the circumstances. I wouldn't put anything past this world though. Anything is possible. In any case, since you're someone my mother has allowed into our family, after the games I shall go to sooner with you just to confirm. Temari smiled. You don't need to go that far, she said, still happy about the gesture. Naruto shrugged. While I just tolerate it, my mother has allowed you to call her mother, and I know for certain she wouldn't be happy if she found that your father is being bad. Besides, I am your fiancé, it's only logical that I look after your mental health. Logic, huh? Temari wondered out loud. It had nothing to do with emotions. It was something like principle. Did she wish emotions were evolved in that thought? Perhaps. Is there something wrong? Temari shook her head. I'm just wondering if we will ever reach that point of love our parents want us to reach. We are okay now, but will we ever cross that border? I don't think about such things. I believe the heart sometimes misleads. Naruto said calmly. But what is it that you want, Temari? Do you want to be called my fiancé? Do you want to love me? Decide what it is that you want and take measures to get it. I have said I will be there, and I meant it. Temari stared into the road ahead of her for a long minute as she went through her thoughts. I don't really have a choice. If my forces me to marry you, I will have to follow it. But it might not be so bad. I love your mother and you're not a bad person. At least I know I can make things work. My advice is that don't settle but look after the best for what you want. Even if something is forced to you, don't bowter it, twist it to meet your needs. The following day, Sasuke released a long breath of relief when Hinata appeared before him and Naruto at the academy gates. The Uchiha smiled. When my mother told me that Chunin exams could only be taken by a 3-man team, I was afraid that you may not show up. He said to the Hyuga. Hinata showed her surprise over the fact that Sasuke was actually smiling at her. The Uchiha has congratulated her on her growth, but was not the one to be showering smiles. It was just like with Naruto. The blonde didn't give her smiles all the time, but when he did, it was sweet. I could not afford to disappoint Naruto-kun, Hinata said a bit firmly. Besides that she wanted to prove her worth to her family. She wanted to show them that she wasn't just the failure that they had cast out, but actually a kunoichi of skills. Reasons don't matter, Sasuke said with a shrug of his shoulders. The important thing is that you are here and we can take the part in the exams. The team walked through to the academy. They handed in their registration forms before being told which class to head to. Apparently, most of the Genins had already made it to the class. They were not late, but hadn't been early either. As they were walking, they came through Team Guy. En Neji Nisan, Hinata greeted the Hyuga in the team, but she was soundlessly ignored. She didn't attempt to make conversation any further. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. It wasn't something that he had anticipated. He knew that there was animosity between the main family and the branch, but hadn't thought it went this deep. The hatred in Neji's eyes was something else that was a little terrifying, especially when it was being directed to the innocent Hinata. The Sandai may have known about this and this was perhaps also in his plans. If he got to expose the animosity in the Hyuga clan, it would certainly force the clan to take some actions. The old man was indeed crafty. Naruto was slightly amused by this plan. Your Uchiha Sasuke, Lee said before anything could be said. I heard that you were top graduate in your class. I like to test myself against the ones hailed as geniuses, as he said that, Lee was already taking a stance. Not this again, Lee, Tenten said with a sigh. Don't you get enough with Neji? She asked before turning to face the Hyuga beside her. Aren't you going to stop him? Neji shrugged nonchalantly. He can fight if he wants to. I am not his babysitter, the Hyuga said. Besides, he was curious to see how the Uchiha would fare against Lee. He had been hearing a few things about him, so it would be good to see if the rumors were true or not. Fine, why no? Before Sasuke could finish speaking, Lee had already moved. The taijutsu user blurred out of sight in some incredible speed, flashing just above Sasuke, his left foot weaving through the air towards Sasuke's head. The Uchiha was too shocked to move, and the speed had been far more than he had anticipated. The kick never reached him as Naruto caught it with his right hand, before letting it go. Lee dropped to the ground on both his feet and looked at Naruto with a surprised look on his face. He hadn't seen the blonde move until he grabbed his foot. We're leaving Sasuke, Naruto said turning around. Hinata followed him while Sasuke stayed behind, teeth gritted. Why? He is a taijutsu specialist, a student of the greatest taijutsu user in this village. With speed alone, I am not a match for him, and you'd need your Sharingan to fight. At this point it is needless, pointless even. If you want to fight, you will do it in the exams. Sasuke followed, albeit grudgingly. Are you serious though? He was asking about Lee's speed. Naruto held out his right hand. His kick nearly slipped through my fingers. I had to strengthen them with chakra to hold him. From what I know about Guy, I assume he carries weights. It is merely a suspicion, but I would rather not risk it. Sasuke smiled. I never thought I would hear you say someone was better than you at something. Well, even the mighty Uzumaki isn't better at everything. Don't soothe your pride by something like that, Sasuke, Naruto said flatly. Sasuke didn't let that ruin his mood. He had grown used to Naruto. I may be soothing my pride over my own inadequacy against you, but it is nice knowing that you're not good at everything and that there are genins who better you at certain areas. Up until now, I'd thought you were better than all genins, but you're not. Just because Lee is faster doesn't mean he can actually beat me, Naruto responded calmly. That may also be the truth, but it doesn't change the fact that is he faster than you, Sasuke said with a pointed stare. Hinata found this amusing. It was rare. Sasuke usually stopped talking or changed the subject when Naruto went on with something someone would find offensive. But he had never so shrugged off Naruto's bluntness easily and still looked to get the last word. He had admitted it to himself, so there was no way he could defend against that. A small giggle escaped her lips, causing her teammates to turn around to face her. Sasuke had the look of, what the, while Naruto had his indifferent mask decorated by a slight left raised brow. She quickly put her hands on her mouth when she realized that they had heard her laugh. It was probably the first time she was laughing in front of them. Sorry, Hinata said quickly when both her teammates merely looked at her expectantly. Why you're bickering just amused me. Well isn't that sweet, Kakashi suddenly spoke behind the team. The Jonin had his iconic eye smile as he spoke. Looks like someone is growing up, he said of Hinata. He too had never heard her laugh, but for her to have the confidence to laugh in front of her teammates was something. This could only mean that the bond between them could only grow. Wait here for a moment, the Jonin disappeared in a puff of smoke. A minute later, he returned with a camera. Let us take a memory for this day. We will not just remember this as the day you took the Chunin exam, but the day we all heard Hinata laugh for the first time. Is that really necessary? Naruto asked. Kakashi ignored Naruto and had Sasuke and Hinata gather around before handing the camera to someone he didn't even know. He dragged Naruto, and stood him on the right side. Hinata was standing between Sasuke and Naruto. Kakashi stood behind the genins, his left hand holding his precious book and his right holding a peace sign. Smile for the camera. The light flashed. Kakashi thanked the person who took their photo and took the camera. He faced his team once more and spoke. I have nothing more to say than good luck and make me proud, and your parents proud. The Jonin disappeared in a swirl of leaves after saying those words. Naruto just shook his head and walked away with his teammates following him from behind. They made it to the class the others were supposed to be. The moment Naruto opened the door, he was assaulted by different waves of killing intent. It would shake someone else, but Naruto found it a bit amusing. Little humans trying to intimidate him with such weak intents. If he released doses of the Kyuubi's intent, They would run off from this class and some may even lose everything in the guts, some would be on the floor, unable to withstand the pressure. A killing intent was supposed to accomplish something like that, not this. Something amusing. A very Nara Shikamaru asked Naruto, settling about a couple of feet away from the blonde. Naruto turned to face the Nara before responding. Yes, the weak attempt to intimidate me, he said. He caught the eyes of other teams. He raised an eyebrow seeing Ino. Ino, I must say, I am very much surprised to see you here. What? Why? Ino demanded from the blonde. You have not changed from the days you were in the academy, Naruto responded calmly. I sense and see no change at all. What is that supposed to mean? Training, I presume, Shikamaru muttered quietly. Like him, Ino hardly trained and he could say that was something Naruto found to be disappointing. Kiba's team is also here, the Nara paused, seeing Team Guy. That makes fresh 12 Konoha Genins participating in the exams. Or Konoha 12, Kiba offered before turning his attention to Hinata. He smiled at the Hyuga. Hinata, have these bastards been treating you well? Because I swear if they have been mistreating you, Akamaru finished for his partner with a bark. What would you do? Sasuke asked challengingly. I'd beat both of you up. Kiba more or less roared in a loud tone, perhaps to put a more convincing act for him to be a little believable. To Sasuke, it was a bad joke that wasn't even amusing. He merely shook his head in response. They were soon approached by a male nin, looking old. He spoke about having years of experience as a genin and taking part in the exams and offered them information on any candidate as he had collected information during his days as a genin. Give me information on Uzumaki Naruto, Shikamaru asked merely out of curiosity. Kabuto took out a card, Uzumaki Naruto, he looked at the card and then faced the blonde. Taijutsu skills, High Chunin, Kenjutsu, Low Jonin level, Ninjutsu, I don't know much except for the use of the Rasengan, the Yondaime Hokage's famous jutsu. Missions, 5A ranked Ms. Kabuto trailed off when his card was cut in half. Naruto, how come you have done 5A ranked missions? We have only done 3A ranked missions as a team. Sasuke asked. Naruto's missions beside, Team 7 had done 3A ranked missions. Everyone had a look of surprise and shock on their expressions. I did the 2 missions on my own before I joined you too, Naruto responded with a shrug of his shoulders. But his eyes were firmly on Kabuto, looking at the nin with a calculative look masked with curiosity. Kabuto knew when someone was looking at him with calculative eyes. By that he figured if Naruto's teammates didn't know about the missions and the look Naruto was giving him, they weren't supposed to be known. Yet, why was the blonde looking at him as if he was plotting something? Yakushi Kabuto, was it? He didn't wait for the nin to respond as he turned away. Sasuke, you only have to watch out for him, he said pointing at Kabuto, Lee and Subaku no Gaara. The first part of the exam came and passed. A great deal of genin teams were eliminated from the first part of the exam and the remaining were sent towards the Forest of Death for the second exam. They were with the delightfully sadistic Anko as their proctor. Naruto could agree with the woman that there were a lot of teams going into the second round and he really didn't want many of them entering the second round. He would be forced to take matters into his own hands. He had studied the way the exams were held in this village and knew what would happen if things went in a way he would not like. The Forest of Death would do its job to eliminate some teams though, and Naruto was happy with that. As they stepped into the Forest of Death, Hinata felt a chill run down her spine. She could tell that this was a very dangerous place for her to be, but she could not run back because she was afraid. She had her teammates with her, and she knew that they would not leave her alone. They would be with her all the way. If Naruto was with her, nothing could go wrong. They walked for a few minutes before resting out under a tree. We can't just stand here, Sasuke spoke through gritted teeth. We need to move out and get another scroll or else we will fail. Naruto didn't share Sasuke's thoughts. Not possible, the blonde said. We will make it, but we must not make hasty movements. Let us relax for now. We will reach the destination tomorrow. For now we can look around and wait to see what will happen. What if other teams get there before we could? Not going to happen, Naruto said with impatience. Don't make me repeat myself, Sasuke. We will wait and move later on. This is a survival test and it doesn't matter who gets there first, but what matters is getting there on time and with the needed scrolls. Sasuke accepted what Naruto was saying, although it took an hour before he could calm down. All that time Naruto was doing some light training with Hinata. He really could not understand the blonde sometimes. They were in the middle of an exam, and he seemed to be worried about training Hinata rather than handling the important matters. Well, at least this was Naruto he was dealing with. He knew the blonde would not allow him to fail. While he wasn't all that up in the blonde's mind, he knew Naruto was someone who did a few schemings of his own. His mother had even admitted it. It was late at night. Naruto summoned his sword and placed it behind him on a sheath, Anbu gear on, his cloak removed, just for the night. Where are you going? I am going on a hunt, Naruto responded calmly. Since you only like using your mind when it is convenient to you, I will tell you something. I just didn't have us sit here so that I could actually train Hinata. I was merely tiring her out while my clones searched for locations of the teams. Sasuke smirked. Even though the blonde had insulted him, he focused on the good point. He really did like the way Naruto thought sometimes. With Hinata out for the night, the blonde could hunt for the scrolls at night while others were sleeping. What sort of creature did its hunts at night? An owl. Naruto was not really an owl, right? I am coming with, Sasuke said firmly, leaving Naruto with no choice. The blonde didn't deny the Uchiha the chance to do so. He nodded and created 2 clones to stay with Hinata in case something happens. We are going to remove the weak links and take their scrolls. Use your kunais, no ninjutsu. We have to be silent and effective. There is lot of ground that we must cover. That is fine by me, Sasuke said, grinning in all corners. He had been itching for a good battle and this was his chance to do something. With Naruto it was always fun. Why had he even questioned the blonde before? He really should never do it again. Naruto had never disappointed him before. He would never lead him to failure. Once again, he was forced to admit that Itachi had been right. Following Naruto was the best thing for him. From now on, Sasuke would not question Naruto. As the two walked away from the tent housing Hinata, Sasuke cleared his throat to speak to Naruto. I never got the chance to speak to you yesterday because the Sand siblings arrived. Naruto glanced at the Uchiha at the corner of his eyes. He didn't say anything as he looked at the dark and narrow way ahead of him. At moments like this he had to use chakra to enhance his vision. He cursed those fortunate to have dojutsus. You want to talk about Itachi? I don't really want to talk to him, but I just want to thank you, the Uchiha said in a quiet tone. The words seemed to have gone through a mountain just to climb out of his throat. When he spoke again, he was a lot calmer. Itachi showed me everything and I understand that it was your role that saw my mother saved and some of my clansmen still breathing today. Value that contribution, love your mother, and follow my lead, we will get along just fine, Naruto stated in a calm tone. Now, let us get to work. The following morning, Hinata rubbed her eyes after she awoke from her sleep. She had the feeling that she had missed something during the night, but she didn't think too much about it. Waking up inside a tent wasn't a first experience for her. She had been doing missions before and they had been forced to sleep out in the clearing. She was feeling a bit hungry though. She hadn't eaten anything last night and she was looking for a bath to clean herself. A girl needed to keep her body in check. Sasuke and Naruto were already up. Both were sitting on a log staring into a map. When she walked out of the tent, Naruto turned to face her before he spoke. Pack everything, we have to move out. Hinata opened her mouth to say something, but she quickly shut it. She hadn't been about to question Naruto had she? When Naruto stared at her with an expressionless face, the Hyuga felt as if she could just run back to her tent and hide. She would have done so had the blonde no spoken to her. Say what you want to say. It was clear to Hinata that the blonde was demanding that she speak her mind and he would not accept anything less than her mind. He wanted to hear the words she wanted to say. Hinata had been in this position before and she knew the best way to handle it was to speak her thoughts. It wasn't like the blonde would get angry or laugh at her anyway. I'm a little hungry, Hinata all but mumbled. We will eat when we get to a good place. This isn't a good place. We are moving towards a stream of water that will also help us freshen up and we can catch some fish to eat. We aren't carrying food in our storage seals, so we will have to search, Naruto responded calmly. Hinata tilted her head to the side. She should have expected Naruto to say something like that. The blonde has always carried himself like a royal prince. You wouldn't find him all messed up, but he always had a certain style with what he wore and how he walked as well as with the people he associated with. Shaking her thoughts, Hinata nodded and turned away from the two and packed up everything before handing Naruto the small bag that contained everything. The blonde sealed the bag away and the team left the place, heading towards a stream of water. It wasn't long before they were able to find the stream and then settled down. Hinata had excused herself from the boys in order to bath safely away from their eyes. By the time she returned, her teammates were sitting by a small fire, already eating the fish they had caught. Hinata joined them in silence. Eat up quickly so we can leave. We have the scroll we need. So hanging around here isn't an option, Sasuke said to Hinata in a strong tone. The Hyuga turned to Naruto as if to ask for permission to follow Sasuke's demands, but the blonde seemed to be in another world, as he savored his food. He was eating in a slow pace, not hurried. Hinata nodded to Sasuke before something hit her. They already had the scroll they needed. But they hadn't fought any team since yesterday. Hinata shook her head. It was possible that they had moved at night. She wouldn't put it past Naruto to have planned something like that while she was sleeping. It didn't even surprise her that they already had the scroll they needed. What would her surprise would be if they only had one scroll. Eating was done and dusted and the team headed deep into the forest once more. They were brought to a halt when powerful gusts of wind suddenly crashed into them, sending the three backwards. A massive wave of killing intent washed over the area, freezing the genins in their place. It was much more potent than what Sasuke had experienced with Zabuza. Whoever had done this was seriously deadly, much more than the dead missing nin. Hinata was not faring any better than Sasuke. The Hyuga was on her knees, breathing harshly as if she had been forced into a couple of laps around the hidden leaf. Naruto rarely faced things that made him nervous, but this was truly dangerous. While he did not show his nervousness, deep inside he was certain that this was something he should fear. Even so, the blonde held his mask, his eyes slightly crimson, resembling those of the Bayou sealed within him. Cowering in fear would not help him with anything. In fact, it would only result in pain and suffering. He had to think about how he was going to go about things here. Whoever this person was, he was not a genin and Naruto was sure of it. Even Anbu would be nervous around such a deathly aura. The blonde wasn't given the time to have many thoughts as a large snake lunged towards him, forcing him to jump back to avoid it. The snake cut through the ground, hissing with its fangs bared at him. Its movements were fast, not giving Naruto much time to think. The large snake opened its large mouth as it ready to swallow him whole. Naruto unsheathed his sword and took a stance before channeling wind chakra into it. Wind cutter. The blonde swung his sword vertically, released a wave of wind, shaped like a blade. The jutsu traveled towards the snake and when it collided with it, the snake disappeared in a puff of smoke. Another snake hissed from behind the blonde, lunging towards him. Naruto flicked his sword into his left hand as it jumped up into the air while he spun around. As he twisted around, Naruto was forming a Kyuubi chakra-infused Rasengan. He slammed the Rasengan into the head of the snake and once again, the animal disappeared in a puff of smoke. The blonde landed on the ground gracefully with a few question marks. The disappearing in a puff of smoke meant that these were not snakes from the forest but rather, summons. He hadn't been ignorant of his enemies and the powerful shinobi that live in this world. The only person who could summon snakes was Orochimaru. Naruto lost his indifferent mask, putting on a look of contempt with his eyes slightly shadowed, and his lips were slightly curled upside down into a frown. This was not battle that could be won by normal means. He could either use the Sharingan or that jutsu. He had promised to only use it for his mother, but lives were at stake here. He could not make do without something that would greatly surprise the snake enough for him to make a move while he was off guard. The blonde looked up to Sasuke. The young Uchiha was standing atop of a tree branch, shaking with Orochimaru just a distance away. He disappeared in a blur and appeared beside the Uchiha. He faced their attacker fully, and was not disappointed to see behind the shedding skin was the person he had suspected. Orochimaru, Naruto stated, summoning his three-pronged kunai. What are you doing attacking children? Naruto asked in a cold tone, his eyes flashing crimson as he spoke. Orochimaru could not mistake the power of the Kyuubi even if it was just a small dose of it. That meant that he was facing the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki and Minato's son. He didn't have much interest in the blonde, he was looking for Sasuke. Still, that look the blonde was giving him was not the look of a child. Orochimaru laughed menacingly. Well, it seems that there is something interesting that I have overlooked. Naruto flung the kunai on his head towards Orochimaru in blinding speed. The snake Sannin merely bent his neck in ways it shouldn't, but that was enough for the kunai to zip past his head. The kunai had been aimed straight at his forehead. Naruto suddenly disappeared into thin air and appeared behind Orochimaru. Ha! Orochimaru blinked, seeing his vision change. He had been staring at the blonde, but then he suddenly disappeared, and the next thing was that the world started move sideways. No, his head was the one moving. Naruto had separated it from his shoulders. Rasengan. The blonde did not waste time before slamming the crimson jutsu into the back of the Sannin. The Kyuubi-powered jutsu grind through Orochimaru's back, making a hole, before the body was sent crashing into the ground. When the snake hit the ground, there was a loud explosion as the jutsu set off. Naruto flung his kunai straight towards where Orochimaru's head had fallen. He flashed there and stood over the snake's head. You're not yet dead. This surpasses the limits of humans, the blonde said, holding out his right hand, the Kyuubi-infused Rasengan being formed once again. This should be enough to obliterate your head. The blonde didn't get the chance to slam the jutsu into the head because multiple small snakes rushed towards him, coming from where Orochimaru's body had crashed. Naruto responded by throwing his kunai towards Sasuke. He flashed beside the Uchiha and grabbed him by the shoulder before throwing the kunai towards Hinata. He disappeared into thin air, and appeared beside Hinata. He flung the girl over his left shoulder. Kyuubi, he said. I know, the Bayu said before forcing its chakra out of the seal. The crimson chakra covered Naruto's legs up to his waist. Without much said and not even a glance at Orochimaru, the blonde vanished along with his teammates. The destination was the tower. From the small crater, clothes in tatters, Orochimaru stood up slowly with a frown on his lips. He glared at the hole on his chest. He wasn't healing as quickly as he should. There were traces of the Kyuubi's chakra inside his wound and it was destroying his flesh slowly. That damn brat had specifically used the jutsu because he knew Abiju's chakra was like poison into a body of a human. If he allowed the chakra to enter his system, it would be all over for him. He had even failed to brand Sasuke, but that wasn't much of a problem now. He had found something interesting, Naruto to be precise. The blonde was something special that he needed to look into if he was going to discover what made him tick. 2 hours later, Anko had a baffled look on her face as she stared at the blonde standing her. The blonde was staring right back at the Sandaime Hokage inside the old man's office. His staring contest with the Hokage wasn't what had baffled her, but what he had said. Let me get this straight, Anko said in a measured tone. You beat Orochimaru and left him with a hole inside his chest, and although you have a history with Anbu, that shouldn't be possible. Not even Kakashi can go toe and toe against the snake. I never said I beat Orochimaru, I didn't just leave him with a hole on his chest, I had severed his head off his shoulders, Naruto stated calmly. Was it that much of a big deal that he had done what he did against Orochimaru? Sure, the snake was a Sannin and all-powerful, but things could happen when you underestimate Genins. He also had the element of surprise in his favor. He had been more or less lucky in his encounter with Orochimaru. Naruto wasn't going to count it as victory. That is Orochimaru, Naruto, Kakashi stressed the name. When I was younger, I couldn't even face him because he was just too powerful. Naruto shrugged indifferently. The Sandaime Hokage cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. How did you do it, Naruto? Hiruzen was less shocked than the two Jonins flanking both sides of Naruto. Considering what the blonde had in his arsenal, he was less shocked. He knew firsthand that Orochimaru was highly arrogant and wouldn't have even thought about taking kids seriously. With that in mind, the Sannin being humiliated in that way by Naruto was not out of the question. Perhaps one would have been too frightened to fight, but Naruto wasn't a normal kid, was he? Element of surprise, Naruto said calmly. And you forget, I am still a Jinchuriki of the most powerful Bayu. I may not have access to all its powers, but I do have access to some of its power. Element of surprise, huh? The Sandaime paused, running through some thoughts. You used the Kyuubi's chakra to counter Orochimaru's killing intent. Given how malevolent and potent the chakra is, even a small portion of it should have been enough to nullify the effects of his intent. With that you were free, but what did you do to catch him off guard? Even surprised, your normal speed shouldn't have been enough to get you that close, did you use it? Naruto nodded. It only takes a second when using it. I realized that was the only option I had to get out of the way. I must admit, he is rather frightening. I had never been so nervous against a foe before, but facing him, I was nervous. The blonde paused for a moment. He was after Sasuke, wasn't he? Yes, the Sandaime Hokage said with a sigh. Possibly the Sharingan. In any case, you should return to your teammates. We will talk after the second exam is done. At this stage, the exam is still active. Naruto merely nodded and disappeared via Shunshin. You're continuing with the exams? Kakashi asked. Isn't it a bit dangerous with Orochimaru out there? Well, he did say that if the exam was stopped he would destroy the leaf, Anko pointed out. She smiled. It doesn't sound so threatening now that I know that it came from a man who had his head severed off his shoulders by a brat, the snake mistress added with a grin. Orochimaru's arrogance will be his downfall, the Sandaime said with a shake of his head. Does he really think that he can take on this village by himself? Arrogance, the exam will continue. Jiraiya should be back in a day or two. I have sent a message for him to return. Kakashi nodded. Is there anything else? Orochimaru might be planning an invasion, the Sandaime said. I received a word of it from Jiraiya. Well, that would explain why he was even here in the first place. I doubt he could have just come here to get to Sasuke-kun. The old man paused for a moment. Whatever you do, don't let it slip to Naruto. Do you understand me, Kakashi? The third said in a steel tone. Kakashi nodded. It wouldn't be good if he found out something like that. He wouldn't be surprised if the blonde would be far away from the borders of the Fire Country within an hour of hearing the news of the planned attack on Konoha. Why the serious mood around just a brat? Anko asked curiously, sensing the serious mood between the two. The Sandaime Hokage smiled bitterly. If he had an army, he would get his army marching towards Orochimaru's village. But since he doesn't have it, the Kyuubi would likely see light again as he marches towards sound with one purpose, destruction, and it wouldn't be because of his love for Konoha. Team 7. Sasuke looked at Naruto with a look that demanded answers. He didn't like it when things were being held back from him. Itachi had done it before and it had driven him towards a dangerous path. The blonde couldn't just say that Orochimaru was after him without explaining why. He didn't even need to guess that the man had only been interested in him. He hadn't bothered attacking Hinata and had merely sent a snake towards Naruto. Since Naruto was the strongest member in the team, the only logical choice would have been to attack the blonde rather than him. Naruto was sitting on the edge of the small single bed within the room, his feet shifting back and forth calmly. He wasn't all interested in Sasuke, but his rampaging thoughts. Orochimaru really did sicken him. That thing was the sort of creature that made him detest humans. Jiraiya hadn't been stingy with information about his former teammates. A sick, cruel creature that only sought about pain. Orochimaru was a conniving snake that would eat people like Hinata alive, and in Naruto's eyes, people like Hinata were the real humans. They were the ones who could breathe freely in this world. Snakes like Orochimaru only brought about pain, chaos and corrupted wherever they touched. Naruto could not stand such a levy. Naruto, Sasuke cut in Naruto's thoughts in a hardened tone. What? Naruto responded calmly. Sasuke merely stared, but Naruto tossed the stare over his shoulder and spoke once more. If you have a question, ask, and I will give you the answer. Well, that will depend on whether I am in a position to give the answers you seek. What did Orochimaru want? Some time ago, he attacked your brother. According to Itachi, he wanted his body and the Sharingan. I don't know the full details, but since he failed with Itachi, he was coming after you. With you he didn't need to use force, but rather, try to manipulate you. If Orochimaru does know the truth about the Itachi's missions, he doesn't know you know. It is likely he will try to pit you against your brother, Naruto explained in length. Sasuke appeared to think for a few moments before he spoke. What if gets the jump on us next time and tries to use force? We will run, Naruto stated in a calm tone. But I will talk to Itachi about setting up a trap with one of the Sharingans I have. It will be nasty, but I wouldn't mind watching the snake tossing around as the black flames burn his body, slowly and painfully. The blonde paused, changing the subject. We should rest. He won't reach us here, and other teams are still in the forest. We have to wait for the second stage to be completed before learning what will happen next. Sasuke almost found it amusing that Naruto was talking about running from Orochimaru. Considering that the blonde severed the snake's head off its shoulder, it would have been understandable if he spoke about trying again. Arrogance wasn't in the blonde's DNA. He knew when to fight and when to save his life. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.